Good evening, and welcome to Rapid Fire Rundown. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be discussing the Ruggedized Miniature Reflex Optic by Trijicon. As you can see here, this is on my 43X, and I've gotten a lot of good time with this optic recently, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it and explain why not only do I think it's a great optic, but I think it's probably the best optic in this footprint, at least for now. So, this will be a very quick video. Let's jump straight into it. The first topic I'm going to discuss is going to be the ruggedness of the optic. This goes without saying. First of all, by the way, every firearm in this video is cleared and rendered safe. The ruggedness of the RMR CC. Trijicon is well renowned for being one of the most rugged optic manufacturers around. The ACOG is legendary for this, right? The RMR is no different. If you look at channels like Sage Dynamics, which do reviews on many optics, you'll find that the RMR is one of their best performers. The RMR CC is no different. This optic is incredibly rugged. If I didn't have this tape over it, you would notice that there are a couple bumps on it because it has taken a few spills. This has obviously not impacted the optic whatsoever. And I don't anticipate this ever going down anytime soon. So the additional ease of mind that comes with a optic being nigh invincible is great, especially for something that I would consider to be a EDC. The second thing is going to be actually the price. When this optic first came out, it was about, if I remember correctly, about $700, $600 to $700, which is incredibly expensive, right? Most other optics, or actually very high quality optics, can be found for much cheaper. Here's an example. On my Roland build, I have a HE508T. This 508T is great, and I think if you really scour, you can find them for about $400. But it's not made by Trijicon, right? You always hear people say, oh, Holosun's just as good, and I love Holosun. And they say, oh yeah, their customer service is great. Well, Trijicon, you don't need to worry about their customer service because nothing freaking breaks on them, right? So I always found that funny. But anyway, this Holosun is great, but this Trijicon really priced itself out of the market to begin with. Now, I actually purchased this for about $500, if I remember correctly, and at the time there was a $200 rebate. Okay, that brings us down to $300. This is a very economical choice for a like 43X or a P365. And it really prices itself right next to Holosun optics, to which I say, why would you buy a Holosun when you could buy a Trijicon, right? Holosun's great. I love them. I especially like what they're doing in the future. They're making very cool optics in the future. But Trijicon's Trijicon, right? It's an American-made company. It actually is very American, right? When I think of the M16A3, A4, I think of the ACOG. When I think of a dot to put on a handgun, I immediately think of the RMR. Trijicon's kind of America's optic company in a few ways. If that matters to you, it matters to you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Anyway, the next thing I wanted to talk about, the buttons. This may seem very small, but the buttons take up basically the entire left part and the entire right part, instead of it being two small buttons like this 508 right here, which can be kind of difficult to get if you're wearing like gloves as an example. The way these buttons work is, and I'll try to get it on camera for you, maybe. Anyway, if you push down on this plus button, the brightness will go up. It's not very tactile, it's kind of mushy, but it does take up a lot of the size over here, so even if you're wearing gloves, it is easy to actuate. This minus button on the right side of the gun puts that brightness down. Double clicking it sets it into auto mode, and that auto mode is actually quite fantastic. I actually prefer to use that automatic mode most of the time. It's not like most auto modes where it's always too dim. I'd say it actually does a pretty good job. The third thing I wanted to discuss is going to be the battery life. People freak out about battery life, right? And one of the cons that they have that I'll get into is they say that the battery life isn't good enough because you need to take the optic off every couple of years or every year. This has a 4-year battery life, guys. If you're being modest, let's say you give it 2 years. Having to change your optic and potentially re-zero every 2 years is You know, we should be going to the range more than that. Is it an annoyance? And do I wish it was a top load battery? Of course. I wish everything was always easier, faster. Zero is annoying, so I get it. But at the end of the day, it's really not a big deal to have to check your zero every 2 years. And furthermore, my slide was actually cut by Wager Machine, which is an absolutely great company. I'll have a review of him at some time in the future because I did actually have a lot of issues with Wager. Everyone sings his praises, and I think he's absolutely fantastic. He's doing what the industry should. He's not having 15-week wait times and exorbitant prices, but I had a lot of issues with him on this build. Anyway, but this is milled by Wager Machine, and actually, you'll find that when you take an RMR off and put it back on, especially if it's cut directly for that optic, you will find that it's almost perfectly zero when you put it back on. I'm dead serious. Try it next time you go to the range. Take your optic off if it's milled by a professional. Put it back on, and you'll find it's probably dead nuts accurate. All right. The last topic I wanted to discuss is going to be how it works with my astigmatism. For those of you that don't know, I do have astigmatism. And how do I get that? I'll post a video of what this looks like through the optic. And with astigmatism, what that is it makes it so lights kind of flare up for us, and it's really annoying to drive or shoot with dots. For whatever reason, the RMR CC actually works very well with my astigmatism, and I don't see a giant flared out blob. It just looks a little bit flared out, or a little bit more of a blob than like a perfectly circle dot, which I'll show you on video here. I wish it looked like a dot. God, that'd be awesome. But hey, you get what you can get. And with red dots, just put the dot over the object and pull the trigger. Astigmatism, people blow that out of the water. So this actually works really well with my astigmatism. This right here, this is a green optic, and this is supposed to help with astigmatism. For one reason or another, I really dislike green, and I wouldn't recommend anyone buy green, to be honest. If you have green, just use it. It's fine, but I don't like green at all. So even with astigmatism, it should be helping. I find it actually does the opposite. So RMR CC is actually pretty good for people with astigmatism, and hey, look here if you have it. Now, really quick, I wanted to talk about some downsides. There's two downsides. First of all is going to be the bottom load battery. I already told you guys about this. It's not that big of a deal. Just change the battery out every 1 to 2 years. You could probably give it the 4 years if you wanted to. Trijicon website says it's about 4 years. If you want to give it that entire time, feel free. But regardless, go to the range and train with your guns anyway. You'll need to replace batteries. It's just part of administrative tasks, guys. Don't make a big deal out of it. And the second thing I wanted to discuss is going to be the fact that it's proprietary. The RMR CC, they really did make their own pattern. Just like Trijicon does, they need to be the best at everything they do. So I feel like they thought they were like behind the market, and they just made their own pattern. They said, screw it, we're making our own pattern. Not everything like perfectly works with the RMR CC, so we're just going to make our own and pray that it becomes the industry standard. I don't think that really happened. I'd say the Shield probably became the standard. But at the end of the day, I don't think that really matters, because companies like Wager Machine are able to mill out your slide, and milling a slide is always going to, not always, but most of the time going to be better than like an MOS type system. So when you send this in to someone like Wager, just tell them you're getting it for an RMR CC. Here's a side note: for the 43X, you actually have to have the irons forward of the optic, I think because it would interfere with the internals. But yeah, it is a proprietary footprint that you're not going to find many pistols supporting out the gate. Is that a big deal? I don't think so whatsoever. People blow this shit out of proportion, but hey, if you can only use a firearm that, let's say you're like an agency and you can only use a firearm that has like an MOS system on it, and you can't have your gun milled, that may actually be important to you. Okay, so overall, the RMR CC, it's a great little optic, guys. I really recommend it, especially if you can get it on rebate. You know, I think the largest thing I talked about this video was why buy a $300 to $400 Holosun when you can buy a $300, $400 Trijicon, right? The warranty with Trijicon's great. For those of you that don't know, you'll never have to use the warranty because it's made by freaking Trijicon, and they're made of adamantium. Great little optic. This has been a rapid fire review of the RMR CC. Stay tuned. I have some cool videos coming up once my range finally gets back to me and I can start recording more B-roll. I'll rant about that some other time. And thank you very much for tuning into the channel. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.